Hey guys, welcome back to the Rideshare Hub. It's Isabella, and today I'm going to be sharing 20 tips on how you can be a better Uber driver. So before we get started, we actually have a sign up link in the description where you can sign up to be a Lyft driver and get a bonus of up to $1,000. Definitely worth checking out. If you want to help manage your finances, there's this awesome banking app called Current. It really just helps you reach your financial goals, and it's just a great financial management app and banking app. So anyways, let's get started with these 20 tips on how to be a better Uber driver. So tip number 1 is to keep your car in great condition. You want to have a nice clean car so when you go to pick people up, they're not turned off by how messy your car is on the inside, especially because that's where they're gonna be. You want it to just look really nice and clean, and also remember to vacuum the floors as well. But that'll just leave the passenger feeling a lot better being inside of a clean car. Tip number 2 is you want to make sure you always have a phone charger and a mount inside your car. If your phone is about to die and you have nowhere to plug it in, that's gonna be really annoying and inconvenient. You're gonna have to go home to get a charger, go buy a charger, which is just a waste of money. So make sure you always have that handy in your car, and then the mount just makes it way easier to use the GPS, or if you have CarPlay in your car, that also makes it a lot easier. So those are 2 essentials to being an Uber driver. Tip number 3 is to invest in a dash cam. This is really just for everyone's safety. If you have a camera facing the outside, then if you ever get in an accident and it's not your fault, there's camera evidence that'll show who was at fault in the accident, and having a camera go towards the inside just ensures that if anything weird happens with the passenger, or the passenger is just doing something really bad, then you have video evidence. It'll make them less likely to do something bad because they're on camera. So it's kind of just like having a security camera. Tip number 4 is to look into rideshare insurance. There are plenty of huge companies like Allstate and Geico now that offer dedicated rideshare insurance. In certain situations that aren't covered by your personal insurance plan or Uber's and Lyft's insurance, these policies will be able to step in. Tip number 5 is to track your expenses. This is really important. Anything you spend money on for while you're doing rideshare gigs is really important for when you file your taxes. This is how you can get a tax return. So that I was talking about before, getting a mount for your car, that can be written off as an expense. Also, just tracking your mileage. There's a lot of apps out there that can track your mileage automatically, like MileIQ and Everlands. Those are 2 really good ones. So you can see how much money you're spending on gas, and really just anything with your car that you're going to be using for when you're on the job is good to keep track of. Tip number 6 is to avoid driving aimlessly. If you're waiting for the next passenger to show up in your app, and you're still just driving around aimlessly, first of all, that's a huge waste of time and a waste of gas. Especially with gas prices being so expensive now, it's really just not worth it. So you might as well just pull over, stop somewhere real quick. Maybe even, this is also the perfect time to use the bathroom if you need to. Just wait it out. It's better to just wait in place than to keep driving around hoping that you'll get a passenger soon. Tip number 7 is to get familiar with the area. This is especially good if you're new to the area, but you can kind of figure out which spots are the most busy or where people are more likely to get Ubers. You also don't want to completely rely on your GPS because sometimes it'll be wrong. So if you're super familiar with the area you're driving in, then you don't have to be 100% dependent and reliant on your GPS. Tip number 8 is to know where your bathrooms are. I know this sounds weird and it's not something you'd really think about, but if you're on the job and you're going to be driving around all day doing Uber or Lyft or anything like that, you want to know where the bathrooms are that you can use. There's a lot of places that have free parking where you can just use the bathroom, like Starbucks, McDonald's. You don't want to just be driving around looking for a bathroom, because again, it's a waste of time and a waste of gas. This is tip number 9. You want to take advantage of referral bonuses. Uber and Lyft offer incentives for referring new drivers. So if you know anyone that wants to make a little bit of extra money or you have friends that were talking about wanting to get into rideshare driving, you can just encourage them to use your code because that'll give you a little bit of money. Tip number 10 is to find a community of other drivers. There are a lot of Facebook groups for Uber and Lyft that'll put you in touch with a bunch of people who have been doing these rideshare apps for a really long time, and they'll be full of really great tips for you. And it's also just a good place where you can like listen and like vent to other people if you have a lot of like crazy rideshare driving stories. So tip number 11 is to stock up your car with all the necessities you need, like water, snacks, gum. This is just for yourself. Again, like you don't want to be wasting a lot of time driving around trying to find a place to get water if you get thirsty or to get a snack if you get hungry. So if you already have that in your car, then you can just take it real quick between getting passengers. Tip number 12 is to play some pretty like easy to listen to music. Also, it's a good idea to just ask the passenger if they want your music or not, or if they want to play their own music, because if you're just blasting like your favorite music, the passenger doesn't like that type of music, or they don't like how loud it is, it's probably gonna bother them and they're gonna get really annoyed. So it's better to just ask like right off the bat about the music rather than just kind of like playing your own music. It's almost like a little bit selfish, I guess, because you never know like if your passenger has a phone call they need to take, or if they have a headache or they just want quiet, you know what I mean? Always good to ask the passenger about music. Tip number 13 is to give passengers a hand, especially if you're picking up someone to go to the airport. That's like a pretty common time people order an Uber or a Lyft, is when they're going to and from the airport. You can take the extra step to get out of your car, open the trunk for them, and put their suitcase in the trunk for them. Every single time I've gone to the airport, I've taken an Uber pretty much, and you know, my suitcase is always super heavy, and every single time I had someone help me take my suitcase in, and it really helped a lot. Tip number 14 is to stick to relatively like safe conversation topics. If the passenger does want to have a conversation, you don't want to ask too many like really invasive and nosy questions. So you want to just keep the conversation flowing if it's good, and if they don't want to have a conversation, you can kind of like pick up on the cues and like the hints that they're giving that they don't feel like talking. It's always good to just stick to these like safer conversation topics for that reason. Tip number 15 is to actually look at the Uber Rider app. If you look at the Uber Rider app, there's some features that the Uber Driver app doesn't actually have. You can see where there's a lot of Ubers in your area, so then you can move to another area that has less Ubers, so you have like a little bit less competition. And tip number 16 is to be smart about surge pricing. So when the passenger demand is higher than the supply of drivers, you basically get a surge pricing and the fares go up. However, the competition gets a little bit more stiff when there's surge pricing. So honestly, a lot of people that start driving are really tempted to go into these like super busy areas that have surge pricing, and I think it's honestly not worth it to go there sometimes, because there's going to be a flood of drivers going into that area to try to get the surge pricing. But if you're in an area that already has the surge pricing, you might as well just like stay in that area because you're already there. You know what I mean? So like there's no point in trying to chase the surge. So you want to make sure that you're not just like wasting your time trying to drive to these busy places to get the surge pricing. Tip number 17 is to keep an eye out for special events. Maybe there's like a sports game going on or a concert, because usually a lot of people will be drinking at these places, or they just don't want to drive because parking is really annoying. So if you know about some special event going on, then you should stay around that area. More likely than not, someone's gonna need a ride, and you'll probably be able to pick up a passenger around there. And this kind of leads on to the other tip, is to go where the alcohol is. So obviously, if it's the weekend and people are going out to the club or the bars or parties, there's gonna be alcohol involved, and there's probably gonna be people that need an Uber. Actually, there's like definitely gonna be people that need an Uber because they need a safe way to get home. So if you're up for it and you're up for being up late at night on the weekend, then you can go around where there's clubs or parties and be able to pick people up that need a ride after everything's over. So maybe around like 1 or 2 a.m. However, the thing with this is that you want to be prepared for the cleanup. Unfortunately, there will be times where maybe you pick up someone super drunk and they throw up in your car or just make a mess. Like if people bring food into your car or like drinks in your car, there's always like a chance for mess. So just kind of like mentally prepare yourself to need to clean up. And then, you know, if they do leave your car like really dirty, you can report that to Uber or like leave them a negative review. In your car, you want to just be prepared with like trash bags or wet wipes or paper towels, napkins, stuff like that, so you can do the cleanup like right away. This is my last tip, is to rest when you need it. There's gonna be times where you really want to keep making money and you really want to keep driving, and you've been driving all day and you're like, oh, I've been having a great day with Uber, I want to keep going. But if you're super tired, first of all, it's pretty unsafe because you don't want to drive when you're really tired. Second of all, you don't want to like burn out, so it's better to just rest when you feel like you really need to rest. You don't want to force yourself to keep driving and picking people up. That's just never a good idea. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed these 20 tips that I had for you guys. I hope they were helpful if you're a new rideshare driver, or if you're already a rideshare driver and you just didn't know some of these things. Anyways, once again, if you would like to sign up to be a Lyft driver, there is a sign up link in the description of the video where you can get a sign up bonus of guaranteed up to $1,000. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.